All right, so you want to get right to the heart of things, right? Like really understand something without wading through tons and tons of information.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's exactly what we are going to do today. We're diving deep into this idea of social confidence and really the whole world between being an introvert and an extrovert.
Right.
So maybe you are someone who really finds their energy in those quieter moments, but also you're kind of curious about how to navigate all those different social situations with a little more grace, a little more ease.
Yeah.
Maybe even sort of adopt some of those extroverted qualities that some people just seem to pull off so effortlessly.
Definitely. And the inspiration for this whole exploration is this really interesting YouTube video. It's called How to Master Social Confidence, Talk to Anyone, Develop Extroverted Traits, and Become Magnetic.
Wow, magnetic.
Right. And it's by Tam Kaur.
Okay.
What makes Tam's perspective so valuable, I think, is that she's really upfront about being an introvert herself.
Interesting.
But she very intentionally set out to cultivate some of those more extroverted traits to help her achieve bigger things in life.
I see.
And she's had some pretty impressive results, right?
Yeah, like what? What kinds of things?
Like public speaking engagements at schools and universities, even Vogue House.
Wow.
She can confidently go to networking events by herself,
For her.
build new friendships, and maintain a consistent online presence, which, can be challenging,
Yeah.
especially for someone who considers themselves an introvert.
Yeah, definitely. So our goal with this deep dive is to unpack some of her strategies and insights, right?
Right.
We want to give you some real actionable steps that you can take away so that you can better understand where you fall on this whole introvert-extrovert spectrum.
Exactly.
Explore the possibilities of learning some new social skills, figure out how to handle those social anxieties that creep up, and ultimately become more socially confident. And we want to do all of this while still honoring and respecting your natural inclinations.
Absolutely. We want to make sure that you are staying true to yourself.
For sure, for sure. Okay, so to kick things off, let's really break down what introversion and extroversion are all about.
Okay.
Right, let's get back to the basics.
So the key difference here, and Tam emphasizes this right from the get-go, isn't about whether you're shy or confident.
Got it.
It's more about where you get your energy from. Introverts gain energy from being alone, from quiet reflection.
Right.
While extroverts, they get energized by being around other people, by social interaction.
Makes sense.
And this isn't like a choice that people are making, it's really a fundamental part of how their brains are wired.
I see. So it's like a neurological thing.
Exactly.
Okay. So drawing from her own experiences and observations, Tam highlights a bunch of these typical introverted traits.
Yeah, so many good ones.
Yeah. So what are some of those?
Well, for example, introverts often prefer those deeper one-on-one conversations.
Right.
Instead of trying to navigate all that small talk that you often find in big groups.
Yeah, the small talk can be rough.
It can be. Introverts also usually need some serious alone time after they've been socializing, just to kind of recharge their batteries.
Yeah, to decompress.
Right.
I feel that.
And she also points out that introverts tend to be really self-reflective.
Right.
Really tuned into their own thoughts and feelings, very self-aware.
Yeah.
And they're often really comfortable working on their own.
Okay, that makes sense.
Then there's the whole friend thing, often having a smaller group of friends, but they're really close friends.
Those really deep connections.
Exactly. And then, there's that tendency to mentally rehearse things.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
So, like, thinking things through a lot before you actually say or do anything.
Oh, yeah.
Which, of course, can sometimes lead to a bit of overthinking.
For sure. Overthinking is definitely a thing.
It is. And Tam also talks about this feeling of being misunderstood, which she thinks comes from all that deep thinking and emotional processing that introverts do. And then there's often this creative side, this love for reading.
I relate to that.
Right. So much of this probably resonates with a lot of you listening who identify as introverts.
It probably does, yeah. It's like she's speaking directly to us. So then when you look at extroverted traits, the contrast is pretty clear, right?
It is. Extroverts get their energy from all that social interaction, right?
Right.
They tend to be a lot more outgoing, and they genuinely thrive in group settings in those collaborative environments.
Okay.
Tam even jokes that back in her more introverted days, group projects were like her worst nightmare.
Oh, I can relate to that. So while extroverts definitely have their moments of solitude, they don't need it to recharge in the same way that introverts do.
Exactly. They need it a lot less.
Right.
And when they face challenges or problems, they often process those things by talking them out with other people.
So it's like they process externally.
Right, whereas introverts tend to process internally.
Got it.
And extroverts also tend to be pretty flexible and assertive, which can be super helpful in lots of work situations.
That's true.
And they typically have a wider circle of friends and acquaintances.
Oh, okay. Why do you think that is?
I think it's partly because they just find it easier to connect with a broader range of people.
Right. They can kind of click with almost anyone.
Exactly. And that's something that Tam specifically says she admired and really worked on developing herself.
Okay, so now I think it's really important for us to clear up some of the common misconceptions about introverts and extroverts, because this stuff can really affect how we see ourselves and other people.
Oh, for sure. It's like we have these stereotypes in our heads, and they can be so misleading.
Exactly. And Tam actually addresses a lot of these head on in her video.
Oh, good. So what are some of the myths she busts?
Well, one of the biggest ones is that introverts just don't like to talk.
Oh, come on. That's so not true.
I know, right? And Tam makes this really clear. Introverts can be super talkative and engaging.
They can talk your ear off if you get them going on the right topic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's more about the context and the depth of the conversation.
Right. Like, they might not be the life of the party, but with the right people and the right topic, they can really shine.
Absolutely. Another big misconception is that being an extrovert automatically means you are confident.
Mm-hmm. And as Tam points out, those are two separate things.
For sure. So someone can be super social, like they can start conversations easily, navigate networking events like a pro, engage with people without even thinking about it,
Yeah.
but still be struggling with self-doubt and insecurity on the inside.
Right. It's like they have this outward confidence, but maybe not so much inward confidence.
Exactly. And on the flip side, you could have an introvert who might seem more reserved in social settings, but they actually have this super strong sense of self-assurance.
Right. Like they know their worth and they don't need external validation to feel good about themselves.
Okay, I like that. So, misconception number 3. All introverts are shy.
Oh, that's a classic.
It is, right. So Tam is very clear that shyness is really about fear of judgment and feeling uncomfortable in social situations.
Got it.
So while some introverts might be shy, there are a lot who just really prioritize their own inner world.
They value peace and quiet. They like their own space.
Exactly. And they get their energy from solitude.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily about being anxious around people.
So it's a preference, not a phobia.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this next one's interesting. The idea that extroverts and introverts just don't get along.
Oh, I hear that one a lot. But it's so not true.
I know. Tam's own experience shows the opposite.
Right. Like their differences can actually complement each other.
They can, right. Like they each bring their own strengths and perspectives. It's all about balance, you know?
Absolutely. A good team needs both.
Yeah.
And lastly, there's this weird idea that introverts just don't have emotions.
What? Where does that even come from?
I don't know, right? It's so ridiculous. But Tam shuts it down hard.
As she should.
Yeah. Introverts often feel things very deeply. They're very aware of their emotions, but they tend to process them internally.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it's not that they don't have feelings. It's more that they might not express them openly to everyone.
Right. It's more about how they process those emotions.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think we've debunked some of the biggest myths out there.
Yeah, I think we did a good job with that.
All right, good.
Yeah.
So now let's get into the good stuff.
Yeah.
How someone who identifies as an introvert can start to cultivate some of those more extroverted qualities.
Yes. Let's talk about those shifts.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, right?
Definitely.
Tam starts by acknowledging this thing she calls extrovert bias that kind of subtly exists in our society.
Extrovert bias. That's
Right. It's like this unspoken preference, sometimes even an explicit preference, for people who are more extroverted, especially in certain areas of life.
right. Like some people think that being outgoing is always the best way to be.
Exactly. And you can really see it in a lot of social and professional settings where the expectations are really geared towards people who are naturally outgoing and thrive in group settings.
Okay, so can you give me an example?
Sure. Like, how many times have you heard that socializing after work is important for getting ahead in your career?
Oh, all the time. Like it's this unspoken rule.
Right. But if you're an introvert
Yeah.
and you find all that social interaction really draining,
Mm-hmm.
and you'd rather just go home and recharge after a long day,
Yeah.
you might get labeled as, not a team player or antisocial or whatever.
Right, like you're not committed to the company or something.
Exactly.
Right.
And Tam even talks about people getting promotions partly because they're more visible and social at those after-work gatherings.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, and she points out that they're often engaging in the very small talk that a lot of introverts find so exhausting.
Oh, the irony.
Right.
Yeah.
So Tam acknowledges this extrovert bias, and while she might not agree with it, she's practical about it and gives you some strategies for dealing with it.
Okay, so what are some of those strategies?
Okay, so her first piece of advice is to always be feeling yourself.
Always be feeling yourself. Okay. That sounds a bit vague.
It does, but what she means is to really pay attention to how you present yourself, how you look.
Okay. So like your appearance.
Yeah, exactly. She really believes that it can have a huge impact on your confidence and the energy you give off.
I see.
She calls it identity shifting.
Identity shifting.
Yeah. So like if you want to be more outgoing, dress and groom yourself in a way that aligns with that persona.
So it's almost like you're putting on a costume.
Kind of, but
Yeah.
it's more about sending yourself a signal.
A signal.
Yeah, like you're telling yourself, okay, I'm stepping into this more confident role today.
I see. So it's like a mental trick.
Yeah, it's like tricking your brain into feeling more confident.
Yeah.
And it actually works.
Interesting. I like that. Okay, so what's her second tip?
Her second shift is all about letting go of that fear of what other people think.
Oh, man, that's a big one.
It is, right? It's something a lot of people struggle with, whether they're introverted or extroverted.
Definitely. I know I do.
And Tam talks very openly about her own journey from being super insecure and worried about everyone's opinion to finally getting to a place of self-acceptance.
That must have been a long journey.
I'm sure it was. And she really believes that people who are quick to judge others are just projecting their own insecurities.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right. She even says, happy people don't judge.
That's a great quote.
I know, right? She's basically saying that if someone is criticizing you, especially if they don't even know you,
Right.
it's probably more about them than it is about you.
Okay, that's actually really helpful. It's like taking away their power.
Exactly. And she even goes a step further and suggests that sometimes when people react negatively to your authentic self, it's because they're feeling threatened.
Threatened.
Yeah,
Yep.
like they see you being comfortable and genuine, and it makes them uncomfortable because they're not there yet.
Wow, so it's their problem, not mine.
Right. It's a really powerful way to reframe things. Okay, her third strategy is fake it till you make it.
Oh, that's a classic.
It is, but she makes it clear that this is not about pretending to be someone you're not for the rest of your life.
Right, it's not about being fake.
Exactly. It's more about taking those first steps towards becoming the person you want to be.
Okay, so how does that work in practice?
Well, she tells this story about when she went off to university. And it was like a fresh start for her. Nobody knew her as the shy, introverted, insecure girl she used to be.
Great, clean slate.
Exactly. So she decided to act as if she already had all the confidence and extroverted traits she wanted.
So like she was playing a role.
Kind of, but the idea is that by acting that way, eventually it starts to feel more natural.
So it's like practicing until it becomes second nature.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Tam makes this point that you can't just sit around waiting for confidence to appear.
Right.
You have to actively put yourself out there and do the things that confident people do.
Okay, so you have to act confident even if you don't feel confident.
Yeah, and the more you do it, the more confident you'll actually become. She also ties this back to the idea of identity shifting.
Right, like changing the story you tell yourself.
Exactly. Because if you keep telling yourself that you're a shy introvert who's bad at social situations, that's probably what you're going to be.
Because you're limiting yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you create a different environment.
Like a fresh start, you mean?
Yeah. Or even just a little shift in your routine. Or creating this temporary alter ego for certain social situations.
Oh, I like that, an alter ego.
It can help you break out of those old patterns and try new ways of being.
Makes sense. So what's the last shift?
The last one is about focusing on your energy and detaching from what other people think.
Okay, focusing on my energy.
Yeah, and Tam believes that this detachment is a big part of becoming more magnetic, more attractive to others.
Interesting, because usually you think of magnetism as being really outgoing and charming.
I know, right? But she's saying that it's actually about being comfortable with yourself, regardless of what anyone else thinks.
Yeah, okay.
She talks about this difference between nervous energy and confident energy.
Oh, I think I get that.
Like when you're worried about being judged,
Yeah.
people can sense that anxiety.
It's like you're giving off this vibe of insecurity.
Exactly. But when you genuinely like yourself and you know your own worth
Yeah.
and you're not seeking everyone's approval,
Right.
that inner confidence just shines through.
It's like you become a magnet without even trying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she even talks about the difference between confident silence and nervous silence.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it that way.
Right. Like when you're comfortable with silence, it can actually be intriguing to others.
Because it shows that you're not afraid to just be.
Exactly. But when you're nervous, that silence just feels awkward.
Yeah, it makes you seem less approachable.
Exactly. So this is a great reminder that we don't have to fill every moment of silence with chatter.
Right. Sometimes it's good to just let things breathe.
Exactly. Now, Tam also gets into some specific challenges that come up for introverts.
Okay. Like what?
Well, she starts with social anxiety and that feeling of awkwardness.
Oh, I know that feeling all too well.
I think we all do to some extent, right?
Yeah, probably. It's like you're constantly being watched and judged.
And Tam really challenges this whole idea of being observed.
What do you mean?
Well, instead of assuming that people are watching you and judging you negatively,
Right.
she says, why not believe that they're watching you and maybe even admiring you?
Wow. That's a big shift in perspective.
Right. And she links this back to fear of judgment and self-criticism.
So it's like we're judging ourselves before anyone else even has a chance to.
Exactly. And to overcome this, she recommends a little exposure therapy.
Okay. What does that look like?
Well, it could be something as simple as looking back and smiling at people when you're out in public.
Really? That simple?
It sounds simple, but it can be really powerful
How so?
because it forces you to confront that fear of being watched. And you start to realize that the negative outcomes you're imagining
Yeah.
often don't actually happen.
So you're basically proving to yourself that there's nothing to be afraid of.
Exactly. It's about gathering evidence that contradicts those negative thoughts.
That's cool. I like that.
Right. And then she talks about the importance of self-love
Self-love. Yeah.
and getting comfortable with just taking up space.
Okay.
You know, believing that your presence matters,
Mm-hmm.
that you deserve to be seen and heard.
I think that's something a lot of introverts struggle with.
I think so too.
Oh.
Okay, now another big fear for a lot of introverts is missing out on opportunities because they're not as outgoing as other people.
Oh, yeah. The fear of missing out. FOMO.
Exactly. And Tam actually believes that the opportunities that are truly meant for you will find their way to you.
Okay, so she's saying it's about trusting the process.
Yeah, kind of. But she also knows that not everyone feels that way.
Right.
So she talks about the importance of being able to sell yourself.
Okay, I'm not sure I love that phrase.
I know it can sound a little icky, but she's not talking about being boastful or inauthentic.
Okay, good.
It's more about being able to confidently communicate your strength and your skills when you need to.
So like in a job interview.
Exactly. Or when you're networking. And she's a huge advocate for putting yourself in uncomfortable situations as a way to develop those social skills.
Okay, so getting outside of your comfort zone.
Exactly. And she tells this story about going to a networking event alone, which was super scary for her at first.
I can imagine.
Right. She almost turned around and left.
Oh, wow.
But then she shifted her focus.
What do you mean?
Well, instead of putting all this pressure on herself to make a bunch of connections,
Right.
she decided to just focus on spreading some positive energy
Okay.
and maybe making one person smile.
That's a great goal. It takes the pressure off.
Exactly. And it made the whole experience a lot less intimidating.
I love that. It's like finding a small win in a potentially overwhelming situation.
Right. Now, public speaking, that's another one that a lot of introverts dread.
Oh, yeah. Standing up in front of a crowd, no thank you.
I know, right? But Tam has actually become a really confident public speaker.
Wow, how does she do that?
Her biggest breakthrough was realizing she needed to detach from needing everyone's approval.
Okay, so she stopped worrying about what other people thought.
Exactly. Instead of being preoccupied with the audience's judgment, she focused on what she could give to them.
So, like sharing knowledge or insights, that would be helpful.
Exactly. And she emphasizes just giving it your best shot.
Right.
And remembering that the only person you really need to prove anything to is yourself.
That's a good reminder.
She also talks about the importance of just showing up.
Yeah, that's half the battle sometimes.
Right. Like, just saying yes to the opportunity is a win in itself.
I agree. And then she mentions this concept of a portfolio of proof.
Oh, yeah, what's that about?
Well, every time you push yourself outside of your comfort zone and you successfully navigate a challenging situation,
Hmm.
it's like you're adding a new entry to this mental portfolio.
Okay, I like that.
So then when you're facing a new challenge,
Yeah.
you can remind yourself of all those times you did it before and it was okay.
So you're building up your confidence based on your own past experiences.
Exactly. And Tam encourages us to view every speaking opportunity, no matter how big or small,
Right.
as another chance to build up that portfolio.
Okay, that's a really cool way to look at it.
It is. Now, what about navigating social situations where there are a lot of extroverts? Like, do you have to try to be super outgoing all the time?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And Tam actually warns against trying to constantly match the energy of extroverts.
Okay, why is that?
Well, she says that while it might help you meet more people,
Mm-hmm.
those connections often stay pretty superficial,
Oh, okay.
and you end up feeling misunderstood.
Right, like you're not really being yourself.
Exactly. So she encourages you to embrace your authentic self,
Right.
even the parts that you might think are a little weird or quirky.
Embrace the weirdness.
Yeah, embrace it.
Yeah.
Because she found that when she stopped trying to be someone she wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
she attracted people who genuinely appreciated her for who she was.
That's awesome. So it's about quality over quantity.
Exactly. Okay, now for something that I think we've all struggled with at some point, keeping conversations going and talking to strangers.
Ugh, yeah, that can be tough.
It can be. So Tam has this favorite hack for this.
Oh, a hack. I like hacks. What is it?
It's all about shifting your focus away from yourself and onto the other person.
Okay, what do you mean?
Instead of worrying about what you're going to say,
Right.
think about how you can make them feel comfortable and engaged.
Okay, that's interesting.
And she suggests using questions to encourage them to talk about themselves.
Oh, that's a good idea. So what kind of questions are we talking about?
Open-ended questions are best.
Like what?
Like, what are your plans for the weekend?
Right.
Or, how was your morning?
Mm.
What did you think of this event?
Right.
You can even give them a genuine compliment.
Oh, yeah, that's a nice way to break the ice.
Exactly. And Tam really emphasizes the importance of listening.
Right, because people love to talk about themselves.
They do. And when you're genuinely listening to what they have to say,
Mm-hmm.
you come across as more interested and engaging.
And you actually learn something about the other person.
For sure.
Mm.
She also suggests that you throw in little bits of information about yourself so it doesn't feel like you're interrogating them.
Right, it's a conversation, not an interview.
Exactly. Okay, so what about big life transitions?
Transitions, yeah.
Like starting a new job, moving to a new city,
Mm-hmm.
or even changes in your social circles?
Yeah, those can be tough.
They can be, especially for introverts.
Why is that?
Well, Tam says it's because change can really disrupt your routine and bring in a whole bunch of new social stuff to deal with.
Okay, that makes sense. So how do you cope with that?
Well, her big suggestion is to reframe change as an opportunity for growth and self-discovery.
So instead of seeing it as something scary, you see it as a chance to learn and grow.
Exactly. And she points out that introverts' self-awareness and ability to reflect can be really helpful during times of transition.
Okay.
She suggests thinking something like, I'm probably going to discover something new about myself through this change.
I like that.
Right. So it's like viewing it as another step in your own personal evolution.
Okay, that's cool.
And on a practical level, Tam, being an introvert herself, she's a big fan of planning and preparation to reduce anxiety.
Okay, so like having a game plan.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
before going into a new environment,
Mm-hmm.
think about things to talk about,
Okay.
how you want to present yourself,
Yeah.
even having an exit strategy if you need to get out of there.
Oh, that's smart. Sometimes you just need an escape route.
Exactly. And for bigger changes, like job hunting, she suggests breaking it down into smaller steps.
So it feels less overwhelming.
Exactly. Things like setting aside specific times for researching companies and tailoring your applications.
That's a good idea.
You can really make a big difference in managing those feelings of uncertainty.
It definitely can.
Now, the theme that runs through all of Tam's advice is this idea of being proactive.
Proactive. Okay.
Yeah, like taking control and challenging those limiting beliefs that can hold you back.
Right. And she also emphasizes the importance of self-education.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
She believes that a lot of those social skills that we admire in other people, they're not things you're born with.
Okay.
They're things you can learn and develop.
So it's like any other skill. You can practice and get better at it.
Exactly. And she specifically mentions websites like Skillshare as being Great resources for learning about confidence, social skills, all that stuff.
Oh, I've heard of Skillshare. They have a ton of courses.
They do. And they have these things called learning paths, which are basically structured courses designed to help you build a specific skill set.
Okay, so it's like a roadmap for learning. I like that.
Right. So if there's a social skill you want to work on,
Yeah.
there are resources out there that can help you do it.
Awesome.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, let's go over the key takeaways from Tam Kaur's insights on mastering social confidence, especially for introverts.
Okay, sounds good.
We explored the main differences between introversion and extroversion, and how it's not about shyness or social skills, but about where you get your energy from.